Is there some corruption that could have happened?
Their unethical, corrupt dealings, which was worth $60 million. He dismissed everything.
Blake Lively is spiraling after her carefully planned victory just got obliterated by none other than her own husband, Ryan Reynolds. To save his own skin and career, he threw her under the bus. The judge may have dismissed Baldoni's claims, but Ryan's courtroom betrayal just cracked Blake's entire empire wide open.
Can't sue her for defamation for that. It's covered by a privilege. He didn't say what she said was true. He didn't say Justin's likely to lose this case at trial, like the case against him. But she's acting like the judge did, and it's a lie.
So Blake Lively thought she won her lawsuit? Right. Let's all clap for Hollywood's latest hollow victory lap. Judge Louis J. Lyman from the Southern District of New York just tossed Justin Baldoni's $400 million countersuit straight into the trash like last week's TMZ rumor, calling it nonsense. Every claim of extortion and defamation wiped out, just like that. And the press, of course, ran with it. "Blake vindicated," screamed the headlines, while she floated down the Tribeca red carpet like she just won a Nobel Prize in victimhood. She had the audacity to act like this was some sort of landmark judgment for women's rights. You know, because when you weaponize a civil rights complaint to hide the fact that you were texting your co-star at 3 a.m., you clearly deserve applause. She bragged on Instagram about standing with 19 organizations who filed amicus briefs. 19. That's not solidarity, that's a PR stunt with legal footnotes. She called the $400 million claim against her retaliatory, pretending like she's some kind of survivor of a medieval witch hunt. Please. The truth? The judge didn't say her allegations were true. He didn't even bother saying Justin Baldoni was guilty of anything. All he said was that her complaint was protected under privilege. That's legal jargon for, we're not saying she lied, we're just not legally allowed to call her out for it. Yet. And let's not even pretend this dismissal was clean, because suddenly, a weird smell started coming from the courtroom. You know, the kind of smell you get when someone starts microwaving rotten Hollywood favors. Turns out, our very own Judge Lyman has a brother. And not just any brother. His name? Douglas Lyman. That's right, Hollywood director Douglas Lyman. The same guy who's worked on films with A-listers and, surprise, surprise, had Blake Lively on a 2008 political ad project for MoveOn. Sure, it wasn't a blockbuster, but the connection exists. Now we're just supposed to believe there's no conflict of interest when his little brother is the one tossing out the biggest legal threat of Blake's career. Because if there's one thing we know about Hollywood, it's that nepotism never sleeps. Let's be real here. Blake Lively didn't win anything. She manipulated a system that was already bending in her favor. The internet saw it, social media saw it, and everyone with a functioning brain cell saw it. Bribery allegations started popping up like popcorn in a microwave. The theory? Blake called up her old director buddy Douglas, played the victim card, and said, "Please help me. I might lose my podcast sponsorships." Douglas Lyman picks up the phone, dials his federal judge brother, and suddenly Justin's claims vanish like they were written on a whiteboard during a power outage. So convenient it hurts. But hold up. Let's not forget the real star of this circus, Ryan Reynolds. You'd think this man was rehearsing for a courtroom-themed romantic comedy. Mr. Deadpool himself, who usually cracks wise on Twitter, suddenly found himself at the center of a scandal no punchline could fix. And why? Because Disney CEO Bob Iger allegedly pulled the plug on Reynolds' Marvel meal ticket. The message was crystal clear. Either cut yourself loose from Blake's PR disaster, or wave goodbye to Deadpool. And Reynolds? He folded faster than Blake's scripted facial expressions. Within weeks, Deadpool 3's press tour got thrown in the Marvel vault. Apple TV canceled his $18 million comedy drama project. His company, Maximum Effort, under financial audit. The man went from Hollywood darling to PR liability in record time. And instead of taking it like a grown-up, he pulled the oldest move in the book. He flipped. He flipped hard. He suddenly became this truth-telling whistleblower, bravely stepping into the light with evidence Blake didn't want out there. Wow, how noble. Except it wasn't nobility. It was survival. Ryan Reynolds didn't come forward out of moral obligation. He did it because Bob Iger was breathing down his neck and threatening to slice the Reynolds brand into pieces. Reynolds wasn't protecting the truth. He was protecting Deadpool. So, when people call him brave for testifying, let's just remind them what was actually happening. This wasn't testimony. It was career CPR. Reynolds wasn't walking into the courtroom, to be honest. He was trying to get Disney to put his face back on a popcorn bucket. He had one shot at redemption, and he used it by burning his wife in public under oath. That's not justice. That's desperation disguised as duty. And the worst part? Blake didn't even see it coming. While she was busy writing Instagram essays and thanking nonprofits for their undying support, Ryan was already slipping receipts to the court like a bitter ex dropping screenshots in the group chat. And when she finds out her own husband is the one feeding the beast, that's not going to be a meltdown. That's going to be a nuclear-level PR implosion. Meanwhile, the internet is doing what it does best, connecting dots that should have never been close enough to connect. Douglas Lyman and Judge Lewis Lyman, Blake's past work with Douglas, the magically dismissed lawsuit, Ryan's career collapse, and his sudden betrayal. The bribery narrative doesn't sound so far-fetched now, does it? And this is only the beginning. If this really is a stage verdict, if Blake leveraged Hollywood connections to get her name cleared, then we're not talking about a scandal, we're talking about a full-blown judicial corruption case. Blake Lively, the self-appointed voice of feminism, could end up being the woman who used the movement as a get-out-of-court card while hiding behind the legal equivalent of a smokescreen. And Ryan? He's not a hero either. He's just another Hollywood husband who chose his career over integrity. He testified not to clear his conscience, but to save his Marvel contract. Let's not pretend this man suddenly discovered justice when Bob Iger threatened to pull his mouse ears. He turned on his wife the second his income got threatened. Honestly, that's not just pathetic. It's textbook betrayal wrapped in brand management. So, while Blake's team spins this dismissal into some kind of moral victory, the rest of us are left looking at the receipts. A $400 million lawsuit tossed by a judge whose brother worked with Blake. A Marvel actor who chose testimony over termination. A legal system that looks more like a movie script than a courtroom proceeding. If this is how justice works in celebrity world, then maybe it's time we stop calling it a system and start calling it what it is. Hollywood's most well-dressed cover-up. June 1st hit like a sledgehammer. Out of nowhere, Ryan Reynolds was subpoenaed under Rule 45. No Marvel-approved statement, no slick Instagram reel to explain it away. Just his name, front and center on a federal court docket. Blake Lively must have choked on her lavender detox smoothie when she saw it. This wasn't some casual request. This was a court order. He was being pulled into her mess, not as a supportive husband, but as a witness. And not just any witness. A witness who knew way too much and was no longer playing for her team. So Ryan walks into court. No VIP exemption, no Marvel cloak of invisibility. The cameras outside were relentless. The Marvel PR department? Probably trying to tranquilize a mouse-shaped panic attack. This wasn't Deadpool cracking jokes. This was Reynolds, unscripted, unfiltered, and under oath. And let me tell you, he didn't come to save Blake. He came to save himself. He starts off clinical, no emotion, just cold facts. December 2023, marital breakdown. Why? Because he found messages between Blake and Justin Baldoni. And these weren't just, hey, nice job on set texts. These were late-night, emotionally charged, hard-eye emojis in text form. Blake was calling Baldoni emotionally attentive and saying she felt understood in a way Ryan didn't offer. Imagine how hard you have to fumble as a husband that your wife decides to emotionally outsource to her co-star. But the real twist? These messages were dated weeks before Blake filed her infamous affidavit accusing Baldoni of misconduct. Her whole victim timeline shattered in one paragraph of testimony. You could hear the courtroom tension tighten like a piano wire. Blake's story had always depended on sympathy, but Ryan's testimony bulldozed that. He didn't say she was lying outright. He just pointed out that her panic didn't begin with trauma. It began with fear of exposure. He told the court, word for word, that Blake was worried people would find out about the texts. The harassment claim didn't come after something happened. It came after she realized she might get caught. That's not fear. That's image management. And if you thought that was bad, buckle up. Because the courtroom didn't just stop at text messages. The next day, things exploded. The defense submitted exhibits, actual emails, not TMZ gossip, not sources say hearsay. We're talking about authenticated internal emails between Blake and her PR handler, Stephanie Jones, dated January 9th, 2024, 4 days before Blake filed her formal complaint. And the subject line, basically, let's destroy Justin first. The email said, on record, Justin's being shady. If he leaks the texts, I'm done. I'll destroy him first. Let's own the narrative like Amber did with Depp. Yep, she invoked Amber Heard, in writing, with a plan. That courtroom didn't gasp. It exhaled pure chaos. The judge had to call a recess, not for drama, for verification. They literally paused court to check if those emails were real. And guess what? They were. Metadata matched. Server paths intact. No tampering. Straight from the source. No spin, just receipts. That's not damage control. That's strategy. Blake didn't have a meltdown because she was hurt. She had one because she was exposed. These weren't the emails of someone recovering from harassment. These were the typed up schematics of someone about to weaponize it. Her brand wasn't under threat. Her brand was the threat. The timeline, the testimony, the emails, it all came together like a house of cards collapsing in slow motion. Her entire narrative wasn't just suspicious. It was manufactured. So what happens when your house of lies gets bulldozed by your own husband? Hollywood closes the door. Fast. First up, Disney. The happiest place on earth slammed the brakes on every Reynolds promo faster than you can say damage control. Deadpool and Wolverine. Pulled. Not even Hugh Jackman could save it. Apple TV? Gone. The $18 million project with Ryan's production company? Shelved. You think these companies just walk away from that kind of money because of a marital spat? Please. They saw the wreckage coming and bailed. Hard. Hugh Jackman, the man who's been fake punching Reynolds on screen for a decade, even reportedly warned Marvel. He told them, "Don't let this circus kill the momentum. Your boy Ryan is now a brand hazard." And Prime Video, they were 30 days away from filming a Reynolds-led series. Everything locked in. Then poof, canceled. Reason given? Reputation liability, not creative differences, not budget issues, just a polite way of saying, you're too messy for our platform. Even Reynolds' maximum effort company wasn't spared. Co-sponsors quietly withdrew. Joint deals dissolved. You don't even hear about it in the trades anymore. Just vanishing logos and disappearing credits. The empire he built from Aviation Gin to Mint Mobile is bleeding out in real time. And all because Blake Lively couldn't keep her storyline straight. But let's not act like Ryan's some innocent casualty. Number he didn't take the stand because he believed in justice. He took the stand because he was hemorrhaging career points like a broken slot machine. Bob Iger threatened to cut him from Marvel, and suddenly, here comes Ryan with timelines, text messages, and courtroom gold. His testimony wasn't noble, it was a business decision. Deadpool can regenerate from a bullet. but not from being tied to a spouse who compared herself to Amber Heard and sent war plans to her PR team. And what did Blake do while all this crumbled? She sat there, in court, clutching a folder like it was going to shield her from the incoming hellfire. She sobbed. She muttered under her breath. "He was supposed to protect me." Girl, he protected you from bad red carpet angles, not federal subpoenas. She wasn't mourning a betrayal. She was watching the PR empire she built with glitter and victim quotes turn to ash in real time. Everything about Blake's case now stinks of fraud, spin, and manipulation. The story she told was a fairy tale. What's coming out now is the horror novel she tried to bury. When you premeditate a media campaign, plant victim cues, rehearse sobs, and bait public opinion while trying to destroy someone else's life, it's not bravery. It's a brand campaign gone feral, and that court heard every bit of it. Brian Friedman didn't come to play. While Blake Lively was busy crying into her courtroom folder like it was a Dior clutch, Friedman was in full dark ops mode. Justin Baldoni's attorney is not the guy you want sniffing around your dirty laundry, and Blake practically handed him a roadmap to ruin. He's been stacking documents like firewood, prepping a legal bonfire aimed straight at the judge's bench, and Blake's carefully polished PR empire. Forget defamation. Friedman's talking judicial bias and civil fraud. And let's be honest, with this much smoke, it's starting to look like someone's been lighting matches in the courthouse. The first bomb Friedman is prepping? Exposing Judge Louis J. Lyman's Hollywood pipeline. Because in case you missed the plot twist, Lyman's brother is Douglas Lyman. Yes, that Douglas Lyman. A Hollywood director with A-list credits, including a cozy little connection to Blake herself via a 2008 Move On Obama commercial. It's not a huge deal on paper, but in court, that's enough to scream conflict of interest louder than Blake screamed for Ryan to fix this. The whole setup smells like Hollywood grease masquerading as federal justice. And Friedman? He's about to file that motion like he's submitting an Oscar reel. Judge first, Blake second. But wait, there's more. As if Blake's legal house of cards wasn't already swaying in the wind, Friedman's team is quietly lining up new witnesses. Not randoms, not Reddit threads, actual actors who've worked with Blake and are now stepping forward through their attorneys. 2 women, 2 different streaming sets, same story. Blake using the same manipulation tactics, privately claiming discomfort, getting male co-stars removed, controlling scenes like she was Spielberg with a god complex. These aren't coincidences, these are patterns, and in a courtroom, patterns are poison. Once those testimonies are filed, Blake won't be able to sob and deny her way out. Friedman's legal strategy is a masterclass in watch her squirm. A motion for contempt is on the way. Fraud charges? Also possible. And when a federal judge starts looking into a court ruling and the family dinner that may have rigged it, we're not talking scandal, we're talking legal warfare. Blake wanted a trial, but what she's getting is a tactical takedown with enough receipts to make the Kardashians jealous. So where is Blake now in all this? Right, in full meltdown mode. The kind you can't PR manage. The kind that comes when your husband testifies against you, your emails leak, your brand crumbles, and your legal team looks like they're 5 minutes from quitting via Slack. Inside that courtroom, she broke. Reporters captured the exact moment. Blake slamming her folder on the desk, muttering under her breath, "He was supposed to protect me." Oh, honey, he was supposed to protect his job, his Marvel role, his wallet, not your ego. She didn't cry because she was betrayed. She cried because her plan failed. She played the victim and lost control of the script. And when the folder hit the floor, so did the last shred of her dignity. Her lawyers scrambled to file a motion to strike Ryan's testimony. They called it biased, emotional, as if this wasn't the same woman whose entire lawsuit hinged on tears and trauma. Judge Dempsey took one look, shook her head, and denied it faster than you can say, reputational collapse. And collapse it did. Stephanie Jones, the PR fixer who once shielded Blake like a bodyguard in heels, pulled the plug on her agency. Gone. Dismantled. Official court filings show the reasons: reputational liability, client flight, financial risk. Nobody wanted to be anywhere near Blake Lively's sinking ship, and you can't blame them. No brand wants to be the next one dragged into a courtroom or canceled because Blake couldn't keep her lies consistent. Agencies began distancing themselves. Talent managers stopped replying to emails. Sponsorships froze overnight. Betty Buzz and Betty Booze, her passion projects, quietly removed her from promo materials. The face of clean living now looked like the face of courtroom manipulation, but the final nail came from her own circle. Taylor Swift stopped texting. Gigi Hadid unfollowed. Cara Delevingne ghosted. It was like the Mean Girls lunch table, except this time, Blake got her tray and found no seat. And that brings us here. Blake Lively built a castle made of pity quotes, Instagram filters, and half-baked hashtags. She played the game hard, weaponized the hashtag #MeToo, crafted a timeline built on spin, and leaned on a Hollywood connection to dodge consequences. But when the evidence came crashing down, emails, testimony, texts, what was left? No actual harm, no proven misconduct, just a panicked actress desperate to control the optics. Even Ryan Reynolds, king of sarcasm and sellout gin, became the accidental whistleblower. Let's not crown him a hero. He flipped because his empire was bleeding out faster than Deadpool in a gunfight. He testified because Bob Iger was seconds from scrapping him from every Marvel project and replacing him with a slightly less damaged Canadian. Still, it was his testimony that exposed the timeline. It was his screenshots that cracked Blake's narrative. The guy who once posted couple goals is now the reason she's facing contempt motions. And let's not forget Friedman. The man is still circling. Every week, another filing. Every week, more evidence. The public may not see it all yet, but insiders say the next move could involve formal charges against Blake, fraud, perjury, or at the very least, court manipulation. Her story's unraveling faster than her last Netflix hair commercial. So what's the real verdict? Not from a judge, but from Hollywood. Blake Lively is toxic, not controversial, not misunderstood. Toxic. The kind of name that gets crossed out in meeting rooms before deals even hit the table. The kind of brand you erase from posters because test audiences roll their eyes. She's not facing irrelevance, she's marinating in it. Her fall isn't coming. It already happened. The house she built on sympathy and stylized victimhood has burned to the ground, and now she's choking on the smoke of her own storyline. This isn't just about legal consequences. This is about a woman who tried to turn public sympathy into a currency and got bankrupt by her own lies. The industry is done whispering. Her friends are done defending. The cameras will still flash, but the question now is, will anyone care? Blake's empire is falling fast and we're just getting started. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what gets exposed next.